Pokemon Champions is a free, competitive-oriented VGC destination that aims to make PvP battling accessible like never before. Whether you want to sweat hella for ranking points and use it as a vehicle for official tournaments, or just get on private lobbies and build wacko teams against your friends, Pokemon Champions is the new premier Pokemon battling arena, and the barrier to entry has never been lower. Right now it's just on Switch, but it's apparently coming to mobile in June, and as a free-to-play game, it's got free-to-play elements that we will definitely dive into later, but for now let's talk more about the game itself. When you boot up Pokemon Champions for the first time, you will undergo a very short and basic tutorial that makes sure you understand how to read at a first grade level and click buttons on purpose without falling out of your chair. You'll be introduced to your first recruitment lineup of Pokemon, which if you don't have Pokemon Home is the main way you get Pokemon to use in this game, and in-game currencies notwithstanding, you can do one of these lineups per day for no cost. They'll show you a lineup of 10 Pokemon and you can choose one to add, with each subsequent lineup showing different Pokemon every time. You have little to no control over what Pokemon appear. Some achievement-oriented rewards can give you affinity tickets for a certain type, so then if you used an ice affinity ticket before your pull, you'd be guaranteed at least 3 ice types in that lineup. But there's no way to be like, I want Incineroar, give me Incineroar, and then just get Incineroar without Pokemon Home, unless it's a Battle Pass reward or something. I guess we'll just talk about the economy and stuff now, since it's integrated into basically everything but the battles themselves. This game runs on VP. That's the chief currency you'll use as a catch-all resource if you don't have various kinds of tickets that are for specific things. You need VP to recruit Pokemon, you need it to train their stats and change their moves and abilities, you need it to buy items like Megastones and berries from the shop, you need it. As of now, there is no way to buy VP with real money as a direct exchange, but there are real financial ways to make earning it, or more accurately saving it, easier, and we'll get to those in a sec. Champions also gives you tickets in place of VP to use for specific actions, like training tickets are used to train your Pokemon without using VP, teammate tickets lets you recruit them without VP, and quick coupons let you shorten the 24-hour recruitment refreshment at the cost of 1 ticket per hour. It's a functional system, and for a free game, I can't say I have much issue with the currencies themselves. The first thing people will ask about a free game is it free-to-play friendly? And the answer is yes, to an extent, but if you really want to enjoy this game properly, I would call it cheap-to-play friendly. You get plenty of currencies and rewards for just doing daily and weekly challenges, on top of a larger lifetime achievement system that frequently rewards you for doing things like using 50 bug-type moves or landing 10 critical hits. You'll be getting extra VP and tickets all the time without even realizing it plenty until you see a notification pop up when you're back at the main menu after a battle. I have no issue with currency acquisition on a completely free-to-play basis. What I have an issue with is storage. At base level, your box can hold a maximum of 30 Pokemon, and in the first couple days, that won't seem like too few, especially if you're not importing entire zoos worth of dudes from Pokemon Home, but that thing fills up quick, regardless. In addition to that squeeze, you can only have 3 different battle teams ready at once. If you want to make more, you either have to scrap one you already have, or shell out for the monthly membership, which is $5 a month, or $50 for the year if you buy the whole year. The membership gives you 1,000 more box slots. You'll go from 3 battle team slots to 18, a few membership-only weekly missions to add to the base weekly missions that give things like teammate and training tickets, and then they also give you extra battle music selections, which I do not care about. Especially with the battle teams being so crazily limited without the membership, this is definitely them creating a problem so they can sell you the solution. 3 teams is insane. There should be at least 5, and it's the chief reason I do in fact have the membership on a monthly basis. I love team building. I love trying wacky things that win me 2 out of 10 battles every time, so 18 team slots is a must for me, and after a month or so of recruiting Pokemon at a steady clip without access to Pokemon Home, my box currently has 103 of them. So without the membership, I'd have had to throw 73 dudes overboard by now. So the membership is half the reason I say Pokemon Champions is cheap to play. The other half is the starter pack that is available for $7, which gives you 50 extra box slots, 30 teammate tickets, and 50 training tickets. This is an absurdly good deal, especially if you're not going to get the membership. 80 box slots is a decent amount, and those tickets have incredible value in regard to the VP you'll no longer have to spend. So I bought that as well. In total, I've spent $12 on this game, which for something I've already played for 45 hours with no end in sight seems pretty worthwhile. The one paid avenue I haven't mentioned yet is the Premium Battle Pass, which is $10 a month and, in my opinion, highly skippable. The regular Battle Pass does enough in terms of VP acquisition, and the premium rewards don't justify the price in the slightest. The Battle Pass as a whole is just not substantial enough to be a monthly thing. There's 30 tiers, the last third of which is just VP games instead of unique rewards, and every time you win a ranked battle, you go up an entire tier, basically, so after 30 wins, or 20 wins and a smattering of losses, you've already maxed out the Battle Pass and have to wait 25 more days for it to be relevant again. To be clear, I don't want progression to be slower, I want there to be more tiers so you're rewarded for longer. To summarize, is Pokemon Champions free-to-play friendly? Yes, but you'll probably want that $7 starter pack anyway. One thing the game isn't is pay-to-win overall. Every Pokemon in the game is accessible with no money, with the current exception of a few megas like Mega Floette that are not available unless you import them from Pokemon Home from a Pokemon game you probably paid for, like Legends ZA, or like Mega Greninja, whose Mega Stone is not purchasable in the VP shop right now for some reason, which upsets me greatly as a resident Greninja admirer. None of these Pokemon are essential to winning. Mega Floette isn't an issue when Sneasler is the most used Pokemon in Ranked. For every Pokemon you don't have access to, you definitely have access to multiple Pokemon that beat it. If you wanted to come on here and become the #1 ranked player for free, you could do so with some selective recruiting and VP management and get set up for the grind in a matter of days. The only thing holding you back is knowledge, skill, and getting flinched 3 times a battle. So let's get to the game graph, where we're out here judging story, graphics, mechanics, and fun as separate entities while culminating together with an overall score at the end, starting with story. Surprise, this doesn't matter. This is a multiplayer-only game, and nobody cares why we're doing this, but canonically you are the new leader of a gym that the last leader just entrusted to you, and that's it. Go play ranked with your non-mono-type teams, or LARP as an actual gym leader and bring a team that reflects that. I've seen a few of those on the ladder. Story gets an NA for not being relevant and will not factor into the overall score. Next is graphics, and Pokemon Champions looks fine. Exceedingly average, nothing to write home about, but nothing to complain about either, which is pretty good for Pokemon standards. Graphics get a 70. Then we have mechanics, where we can talk about the moment-to-moment Pokemon gameplay. For now, there are only 2 formats, singles and doubles. You'll create teams of 6 Pokemon for each, and then when you're matched with an opponent, you'll see a preview of each other's 6 Pokemon and choose which 3 or 4 to bring to the actual battle. 3 for singles, 4 for doubles. In tournament terms, it's closed team sheet best of 1 matches, meaning you don't know what items or movesets your opponent's Pokemon are running, and you don't know their stat training regardless, with no rematches outside of private lobbies. Then the battle starts, and it proceeds the way any Pokemon battle would, with you taking turns unleashing cartoon hell on each other until one side has been properly decimated. I mentioned that the barrier to entry has never been lower for competitive Pokemon, and that's because the grind of hunting for Pokemon with perfect or specific IVs, painstakingly EV training them in precise fashion, and breeding and trading in-game items to NPCs for the perfect movesets and natures has been stupendously simplified. IVs, which are Pokemon's innate talent points for each stat that determined an individual Pokemon's maximum potential, have been done away with entirely, removing luck-based grinding and equalizing every instance of the same Pokemon for competitive fairness. EVs, which are points you manually pump into your Pokemon to increase their stats by a certain limited amount, can now be added and removed instantly and precisely for the cost of VP or a training ticket without needing to grind specific wild Pokemon over and over again in other games. Moves can be selected from a list of the Pokemon's entire possible moveset and changed instantly, and their abilities and natures can also be changed instantly. Basically, if you ever didn't want to engage in competitive Pokemon battles because of how annoying and grindy it would be to cultivate perfect Pokemon that can compete at the highest level, that barrier is gone. All the Pokemon are perfect by default, and the rest is up to you with a few button presses and slider adjustments. That said, in its current state, it's a much more reserved situation. The selection of Pokemon is limited, the items are limited, and it feels like a hefty slice rather than the whole cake. But it's a tasty slice, and a good start, especially for onboarding new players. Plus, the limited selection actually creates an interesting environment for shaping the meta, with unique Pokemon thriving under these conditions that wouldn't otherwise see much use if everyone else was there too. I don't know what this game is going to look like in June when it comes to mobile, or what new seasons will bring at any given time, but for now I give mechanics an 80, losing a decent amount of points for having such limited storage if you're not paying for it. Now we have fun. Is Pokemon Champions fun? Depends who you're playing against. I've been having a decent time in ranked, but you will run into a lot of Pokemon teams that look very similar. The top 10 most used Pokemon will have at least 2 or 3 representatives in virtually every team you encounter. You can't escape them. Whatever team you create needs to have an answer for Sneasler and Basculegion and Archeludon and Aerodactyl and Mega Charizard Y, etc., because people in ranked are knowers, even in the lowest rungs of the ladder, and they want to use what everyone else is using. I can be way down in Pokeball tier at the start of the season, and the majority of people I play against will still be running common mainstays like Incineroar and Kingambit and Pelipper. Whether they know how to use them effectively is another matter, but generally you can't just make a team of all your favorite dudes and expect to win, which can be frustrating because I don't want to use what other people are using. I like to experiment and make fun gimmick teams, but I still end up having to bring a couple top tier Pokemon that fill mandatory roles, or I'll get run over before the match even starts. That's when it can be an extra fun palate cleanser to battle your friends in private lobbies where there's no stakes and nobody's tryharding to get out of Ultra Ball tier, so they actually bring some interesting teams along. If anyone's a Yu-Gi-Oh fan though, I will say that Pokemon Champions' ranked experience is nowhere even close to as insanely power-crept and annoying as Yu-Gi-Oh Master Duels. Like, at least nobody's taking 15 minutes to set up one-turn KOs out here, or immediately summoning the monster that negates everything and doesn't let you play the game. So as far as being the premier free-to-play multiplayer destination for its respective franchise, Pokemon Champions wins that contest by a landslide. I've played Pokemon as a casual enthusiast for almost 30 years, and I did a very brief semi-competitive toe-dipping back in the X and Y days on a Smogon alternative called Pokemon Online for a few months. I would never call myself an expert in competitive Pokemon, but I can feel the drive to become one brewing within me as a result of this game, and the many YouTube videos I've watched surrounding it since it came out. I give fun an 80. And now for the overall score, which is not an aggregate of the previous scores because some things are weighted differently. I'm giving Pokemon Champions a perhaps unsurprising 80 out of 100. It's a vehicle for competitive play that I enjoy driving, and even if I fall off it here and there, I can always see myself returning at random times to get back into the action for a while. But that's going to do it for this review. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can like, share, and subscribe. Watch all my other videos while your opponent sets up Trick Room, and I'll see you guys next time.